So with that, we're going to go ahead and kick things off. I'd like to welcome Steve Hale. He is one of the folks who helps to run our TIMS system here at ODOT. And Steve, I'm going to go ahead and let you take things away.
Thanks, Victoria. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Great. All right. So now I'm sharing my screen. Do you guys see that?
Yes, we see the ODOT website.
Great. So like Victoria said, my name is Steve Hale. I am with ODOT's Office of Technical Services. I maintain the TIMS system in the fact that I do database development, some application enhancements. I work with the developer, the vendor who actually built the site to do some upgrades from time to time. And then I do trainings like this and customer service type tasks. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me. Again, my name is Steve Hale. And I'll also show you how you can email the TIMS site too. But first, I guess, what is TIMS? So TIMS stands for Transportation Information Mapping System. It's a web application that we've built here at ODOT to essentially gather information from throughout the state and throughout the department.
I'm hearing some background noise I'm sorry to interrupt, Steve, but for those of you who've just joined, if you could please make sure you mute your phone line, we would greatly appreciate it. And you can do that either by pressing the mute button on your phone or pressing *6 on the keypad. Thanks.
Thanks, Victoria. Okay, so TIMS is it's a web application. It's publicly available. It's essentially a website where you can go to see tons of data that we've gathered from throughout the state, throughout the department, throughout ODOT. And the way you access TIMS, I think the easiest way to access it is through ODOT's webpage. So on the left-hand side, if you scroll down from ODOT's webpage, you'll see Maps and Reference. And then there's a link for the TIMS web application right there. So this will bring you to essentially the home page of TIMS. And from here, you have a few different options. You can view projects via the project search page. Create a map is where you're going to come to view all the data that we have hosted in TIMS. So the assets, the road information, the boundaries, traffic counts, transportation projects. You can view all that on the map here and create a map. Data download, if you are an Excel person or you do GIS on your own, you can come here and download all of the data that we actually have in TIMS and use it on your own personal machine. Standard PDF maps, we've created a few standard queries. A lot of it's based off of the project information. We'll go into this later, but some standard PDF maps that you can go and download and print off for analysis. Map viewers, it's very similar to create a map page, but it's more focused content that we'll get into. And then the data glossary. So we have lots of data, lots of different columns and attributes associated with this data. You can come to the data glossary to see what all those fields mean. So with that, a couple other links down here at the bottom I'll touch on real quick. Is we have a news section down here that you can click on and see just some news about TIMS, what's going on, what are some of the recent updates. You can actually access the LTAP workshop training registration form here and see also and just see the updates that are being applied to the application. And then this contact information here. So this will this is the TIMS email page, so you can send us emails if you have comments, concerns, or requests. We also do a monthly status update, similar to the news page, where we tell you what's upcoming, what's going on with TIMS, maybe what's new. If you want to sign up for that monthly email, we usually send it out around the first week of the month. Go ahead and email this this email address and just let us know that you would like to sign up for that, and we'll get you on there. So back to the main page, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the project search page. So you'll notice that when I browse to any of these other pages within TIMS, you'll see links up here for quick access to all those main pages I just talked about. So from the project search page, I could jump over to create a map, data download, or any of the others here. So the project search page, we have lots of transportation projects here in the state of Ohio, and the idea behind this page is to pull all this information into one location. We host the projects on this page from our Ellis database here at ODOT. We have projects that date back to 2003. We have current projects, and then we have future projects that have committed funding associated with that project already. So you'll notice a couple elements of this page. We have some filters up here that will allow you to quick and easily go through and pare down the data and filter it to only show maybe what you're looking for. And then we have our results page down here that actually shows all of the results from our database based on those filters that you've applied. So currently, I'm showing down here almost 50,000 records in our Ellis database that we're hosting in TIMS. So if you wanted to, you could browse through this and find the project that you want. It's going to take a while, but you can do that, and you can sort ascending or descending here. But what I would recommend is coming up here to our filters and go ahead and start applying some filters. So you'll notice, let me pick District 6 here. You'll notice that after I picked District 6, we started with almost 50,000 records, and now we're down to 4,800 records. So this results table is going to filter itself on the fly as you select these different options. So now I can select Franklin County, and you'll see that this filter is pared down even more. Now, alternately, if you know the PID number or the project ID of the project that you're searching for, you can actually type that in here, or we have a search by PID search bar that's accessible from anywhere within the application. So I'm just going to jump around to show you. From any page, you can actually search by the project ID. And this is also available here on the home page too. So back to my project search, you'll notice that my filter that I applied, once it loads, refresh. And this just worked a second ago, huh? There we go. You'll notice that the filter that I already had applied is automatically brought up. So TIMS is smart enough to realize that the filters that you've used in the past, and anytime you open up this project search page, it's going to remember that. So that could be good or it could be bad, but if you want to reset that, you can just click the reset button to clear your filters here. So once you find a project that you're interested in here, come back to my filter. You can see down in the results table a few different options. This magnifying glass on the left-hand side allows you to click View Details. And what this will do is it'll bring you into the project information page. So once you find the project that you're interested in, just click that button, and this will give you some more information about that project. So it'll give you an overview of locational information. It'll show you some other project-related information, like what type of project it was, who's the project manager, who led the project, the fiscal year. It'll also show you some funding indicators, what types of funds were used for this project, how much did this project actually cost, or how much was it estimated. If there's bridge information associated with that project, you can see the structure file number associated with that bridge. And down here, you can actually click on the project plans under the project plans URL. This will take you to the Office of Contracts page. And if there are if there are plans available for that PID, you'll be able to view these over here by selecting the View PDF. So now I can jump in and view the plans quick and easy. Now, one disclaimer that not all PIDs will have plans associated with them, and that external site is maintained by the Office of Contracts. So now I found all this information. Let's say I want to view it on the map. What I can do is I can click this View and Map button from my project information page, and it's going to take me over to the Create a Map page. And this is going to actually show me on the map, you can see highlighted in blue there, the project location for that project that I was just looking at. I'm going to browse back. So say I want to view multiple projects. So some PIDs have actually multiple records in this database, and that's because there might be multiple work locations associated with a certain project. So even though you have one PID, say there might be work done in multiple locations, and those will be represented by different records in this database. So for example, for this 4082, it looks like we have 2 projects here. Associated, 2 work locations associated with that PID. So what I can do is I can actually highlight, by clicking on the records, I can highlight both of those from my project search page, come back in here to View and Map. And this will take me back to Create a Map, but now I'll see multiple project locations. So you can see that this project was done at an intersection, and both segments now show up on my map. So a couple other items I skipped over quickly when I did my filters. You can also filter based off of the primary work category. For some reason this page is loading slowly, so I apologize. But now you can click on the primary work category and you can view all the different work types and filter your table down even more based off of those primary work categories. And you can even search off of fiscal year or calendar year. So once I have a selection made in my results table, so say I viewed it in the map, that's the project I want, but I want to export some information to Excel. So I can just select the records that I want to export, click my Export Data button here, export to Excel. You can export to a KMZ, which will open up in Google Earth, or if you do GIS on your own, you can export to a shapefile or a geodatabase as well. So I just click Export to Excel. It's going to spin for a second. And then it should open up a zip file that has the Excel files zipped up for you. Oh, it looks like it opened up off screen. I'm used to having double monitors, so I apologize. So that's essentially the project search page. From there, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the Create a Map. So we briefly saw this a second ago when I viewed my project in the map. So the Create a Map page is where you're going to come to view all the other data that we have hosted in TIMS. So project search is good for searching for projects, but maybe you want to look at some transportation asset information, or maybe some boundaries, or we have traffic counts of transportation projects, and we have a lot of environmental data on here too. So that's where you're going to come to Create a Map. So we have a couple elements on the Create a Map page that you'll notice. So we have a map up top. That's where you're going to visualize the data. That's where the tools are located that you can use to filter and identify some of this information. And then below Create a Map, we actually have our toolbar. So when you open Create a Map, the Layers tool is going to be open by default, but as I click on other tools, you'll see the interface will change. So as I click on all these different tools, and we'll go through these tools in a minute, you'll see that this is where I'm going to come to actually activate and use those tools that I click on. The button on the far left-hand side is where I'm going to come back to add my data to the map and enable these layers. And that's called the Set Visible Layers tool. Another thing you'll notice is my map, when I first opened it up, is very small. We have a couple different options here, and we wanted to make this accessible for people using all types of devices with different types of resolutions. So in the bottom right-hand corner, you can click Adjust Map Height, and this will actually allow you to change to a small map, a medium map, or a large map based on your screen resolution or your own personal preferences. So once you set this, the application will actually remember that. So next time you come into TIMS, it'll default to that preference. So finally, the last part of Create a Map is below the tool interface, we actually have a results table. So this looks very similar to the results table that was in the project search, and it actually is identical to that. But once we start to filter some data and query some data, you'll see that our actual queries will show up in the results table, and we can see the information and the underlying data associated with all these layers. So let's start by enabling some of these layers here. So some of our layer groupings here, you'll notice we have a few different layer groupings here. This is the assets is where you're going to come to find your bridge information, your transportation assets. We have PCR on here. We have some noise wall inventories. We have all sorts of transportation assets here. Boundaries, your typical county boundaries we have defaulted on the map, you'll see. You can also turn on ODOT districts. We have city boundaries, township boundaries, and then we have some political boundaries down here. Environmental, so we do a lot of work for the Office of Environmental here to publish their data and make it accessible for their analysis and people throughout the state to get this information. So we have all sorts of environmental data under the environmental tab. Projects, so this is similar to what we were just looking at, but these are all the projects mapped. So I can turn this on and view all the projects in our LS database that we pull into TIMS. We also have a couple buttons to filter off of the fiscal year or perhaps the district work plan. And then roadway information. So we're a DOT, and roads are our primary focus. So you can click on roadway information and see all types of different information that is associated with the roadway. So you can see functional classification, you can view mileposts, you can see ownership or whether or not it's a snow and ice priority route. Maybe you're interested during a snowstorm. And then we have a few other transportation layers here. These are our strategic transportation systems that show airports, waterways, bus stops throughout the state of Ohio. And then our last layer grouping is the safety layer grouping that we pull crash information for the 3 previous years and publicly serve that out. So you can view crash information from 2013 all the way up to 2015 here. So in order to turn on a layer or to enable it on the map, it's as easy as just clicking on the button of that layer. So I enabled the bridge inventory, I could enable PCR, and I can enable all sorts of different layers here. And you'll notice that as I click these layers, the actual layer will show up here in the right under my legend. So that shows me that, yep, I turned on that layer and I have 3 layers active right now. I have the bridge, PCR, and I have the county boundaries. And then I scroll up to my map and I don't see either the bridge or the PCR. That's because we have a scale dependency, which means you have to zoom in on the map to see that data. Because if we displayed all of that data as it stands with this extent, it would take a while to show and it wouldn't be very meaningful. So once you zoom into the map, and it uses a very common interface. You can use your scroll wheel to zoom in, or you can use the plus or minus over here on the left. So once I scroll in far enough, you'll see that the data will appear on the map. Also, if you keep zooming in, a lot of data we have labels that will show up when you zoom in further past another scale extent. So here you can see the label showed up, and for the bridge, that's my structure file number. And then for the PCR, I actually see the pavement condition rating displayed on top of the roadway. So I'm going to turn off PCR. And so now that I have my layers turned on, say I might want to get some more information about these layers. So what I can do, the quickest way to get some information about a layer that you have enabled is probably the Identify tool. So the Identify tool is this button on your toolbar with an eye on it. Once that's enabled, it's going to ask you which layer do you want to select from. So this dropdown is going to be populated with all of the layers that you have active in your map. So if I had more layers active, I would see those layers here, but because I only have 2 active, those are my only options here. So I'm going to select the bridge inventory. And now when I hover over the map, you'll see that there are crosshairs enabled, and then I can just click on the feature that I want to identify from. So once you click, the little red box is going to be drawn, and then if you successfully identify features, those features will turn blue in your map. Now if I zoom down to my results table, I see the results of that selection in my results table, and I can browse through and see all of the attributes associated with that. Now you might say that's a lot of attributes. There's no way I'm ever going to care about all of those attributes. Well, there's a button right above the results table called Show or Hide Columns that you can enable, and you can actually toggle off and on some of these columns to see only the information that you're interested in seeing. Also, this is one of the new features that we have in TIMS as of this past spring, is we've added this link to the data glossary from our results table. So you can actually click on these little question marks next to the column name, and it'll give you a description of what that field means. So sometimes the field names aren't super descriptive and don't exactly tell you what you're looking at. So what we try to do with the data glossary is give you a definition that helps you better understand the data that you're seeing. Another disclosure with that is we're actually still working to solidify our data definition. So it is a work in progress, and not every single data set in here will have the robust definitions quite yet. Another thing, another option we have here in the results table is you can export the data very similarly to all those different formats. You can zoom to the results, and it'll zoom the map to the selection that you have made. So I actually selected 2 bridges here. Maybe you only intended to select the one. So what you can do in your results table is you can actually click this X, and you can remove that selection from the map. So now if I zoom in, whoops. If I zoom in, you would have seen that only that one record was selected. Turn this back on. Identify. Here we go. So let me deselect that. And you'll see that even though I selected 2 records, I'm now only seeing 1. And now I can go ahead and export that or do whatever I wish with that. Now let me flip back to my Set Visible Layers tab. And you'll notice that once you make a selection on the data in TIMS, there's going to be a new layer grouping down here underneath safety called Results Layer. So if you add data to the map or if you do any queries, this results layer is going to show you that new layer that you created. So in the legend, you'll see that here's the results of my identify layer, and I can actually turn that on or off just like any other data set in my create a map. You can also zoom to that layer. You can show the attributes, or you can remove the layer altogether there. So another way to look at some data from these layers that you have enabled are via the filter tools. So the filter tools are here on the toolbar, and it gives you 3 different options. You can filter by attributes, you can filter by graphics, or you can filter by geography. Now the filter by attributes, let me go ahead and enable this. This will actually look in the data, look through the fields, and allow you to build your own queries based off of the fields that are in the underlying data. So what I can do is I can select a field. I'm just going to select a random field. I'll select county. And then I can do is, and then I can select the operator. So here are the county codes. And if I start typing, it'll dynamically read my text and give me only the options that apply to that text that I have entered. So I can do county is Franklin, click search, and then that's going to search Franklin County, or search the bridge database and give me all of the bridges that fall within Franklin County. I'm not going to submit this because it might take a few seconds, and it never goes smoothly on webinars. So another thing you can do is add filters. So I can have multiple filters based on the attributes in the underlying data. So now I can do county is Franklin, and I could say average daily traffic is greater than, let's say, 50,000. So now, because this is a slightly smaller query, this might still take a while, but I'm going to risk it. I can go ahead and click search, and it's going to search the bridge data and return, hopefully, all of the bridges in Franklin County with an average daily traffic that's greater than 50,000 records. So it looks like I can scroll down to my results and see that I have 456 bridges that meet that criteria. So that's another way to filter your data, to extract some information. I'm going to go ahead and clear this. Another tool, I'm not going to demo this, but I'll show you quickly. The filter by geography allows you to select the features that you want to filter, and then select a geographic boundary. So I can select county, I can select MPO, a district, or urban area. And then from that, select which one of those features you want to filter from. So I could say District 12, bridges in District 12. Once I click search, this will actually take a while, but once I click search, it'll give me back all of the assets that fall within that red boundary highlighted there. So lastly, we have this filter by graphic tool, which actually got a little bit of an overhaul as well with our spring enhancements. So what this tool allows you to do is actually draw a graphic on your map and filter all of the records that fall within that graphic. So again, you always have to select which layer you want to filter from. So I'm going to keep it on the bridge inventory. And then now it's going to ask me to draw either a point, a line, or a polygon. So what I can do now is I can draw a point by clicking draw. I'm just going to draw a point here. Let me scroll up just a tad. And now it gives me, this is the new enhancement, this buffer tool allows me to enter a buffer. So now I can enter a buffer, let's say 2 miles. Enter in miles. Click buffer, and so this point that I just drew here, once I click buffer, is now going to be buffered by whatever distance I entered there. So now I can click search, and it's going to actually do a spatial search to show me all of the records that fall within 2 miles of that point that I placed on the map. So you can also do it by line, so maybe you're interested in just a certain corridor. So I could draw a line. Let's follow this 250 right here. Oops, let me try that again. All right, just double click to end. And I can set my buffer distance, click buffer. And so now that's going to build a buffer that's 2 miles around that roadway that I just traced. If I click search, it's going to search and find all of the assets. Now, this works for any asset that you have enabled from the layers page. So not only bridges, but you can search and query any of the layers that you have turned on in your map. So now I can scroll down to my results table and see that I have 68 bridges that fall within 2 miles of that section of roadway. And then lastly, you can filter, under the filter by graphic, you can filter by a polygon. So that works the same way. You just draw. Oops, a little bit of a lag there. Just draw your polygon. And then you can apply a buffer if you'd like, or you can just search that polygon. And so now if I come back to my set visible layers, I can see that the results of all of those filters show up in my results layer below. So I can turn those on, or off. I can enable the attributes down below in the results table, or I can remove them altogether. So those are your filter tools. I'll quickly go over a few different items on the toolbar before I jump over to some other new enhancements. This set base map tool on the right-hand side allows you to change the underlying base map that you see. So right now what you see, this road network, is actually provided by our GIS software company called Esri. You can see down here it's ESRI. But you can change this to show their provided aerial imagery or some other topographic maps, perhaps. Or down here, the Ohio Statewide Imagery Program, we have OSIP 1, OSIP 2, and Best Available. So if you click Best Available, wherever you are on the map, it's going to give you the best resolution there, which I'm actually in a rural area, so it's not going to be that great. But you can see the features here. Wow, geez. Sorry about that. But you can change your underlying base map here. You can also print a map. So I'll show you that in 1 second, actually. Or you can share a map with your friends. So the share a map, if you have layers enabled, and you're zoomed into a certain area and you want to share that with somebody to say, hey, here are all the bridges and the culverts in this area that I'm looking at. You can click share on map and it's going to give you a URL here that you can just copy and paste. You can text message it, you can send it to somebody via email or Skype, whatever works. And then if I pasted that into a new browser, it's going to take me right to create a map, right to that location that I was looking at with the layers enabled that I had on when I shared. Now this share a map function will not carry over any queries that you did or any data that you add to the map, which I'll show you in a second. But this will only work for layers that we have native to TIMS. All right, so you might also want to find some locations in TIMS. We have a couple tools here that allow you to easily find location based off of latitude, longitude, based off of an address. Maybe you have a county route section, you can do find log point, or geographic areas. So I'll just quickly go through these. So address, it's very self-explanatory. You just type in the address that you're looking for, click find, and it's going to zoom right to that address location. Same for latitude, longitude. If you have a coordinate that you're trying to look up, and these are decimal degrees, you'll type that in here, click find. It's going to drop a flag on your map and zoom right to those coordinates. You can also use the click on map feature to click on the map and extract the latitude, longitude from where you clicked on the map. You can just copy and paste that. The Find Log Point tool. So if you work with the DOT or if you work at ODOT, you're likely going to use some sort of county route and section when you're locating assets or doing inventories or whatever your workflow might be. This will allow you, this gives you two options to find a county route section based off of what we call the NLF ID or the Network Linear Feature ID. So what you first do is select whether you want a county log point or a state log point. You can use this click on map feature and then just click on the road that you want to extract. So once that flag turns blue, you know you found a match, and now I can see here's my NLF ID, my county route and section, and then here's the log point, or essentially the milepost of the location that I just clicked on the map. So you can also find one based off of a county and a route if you know the county and the route that you're looking for. So let me type in Franklin County. And then I'm going to select a route. So let me say Interstate 70. And the application is actually going to tell you what the acceptable values are for that, that route within the county. So if I type in milepost 10, click Find, it's going to zoom the map and put a pin right on that log point, on that county route and section, on that milepost of where you're looking for. All right. So and then the find area is just geographic areas. You can search by county, MPO, district, or urban area. So a couple other tools. One of the other new enhancements is to the measure tool. So as you're making measurements, this tool allows you to measure a distance, an area, or a location. So I can do miles, feet, or kilometers. I'll just keep it on miles. Click measure, and then begin drawing my line here. And you'll see that my distance shows up here, but as I'm drawing, click it again, as I'm drawing, that distance readout is dynamically showing me how far I'm drawing. So this is useful if you want to locate maybe a certain distance from an intersection or whatnot. The same works for the area or the location. It'll actually dynamically read out that measurement. Another new enhancement is this draw tool. So under the tools dropdown, this draw allows you to actually add graphics to your map. So maybe you want to add some points or some lines or some sort of feature to enhance your map. You can use this draw tool to select whether you want to draw a point, a line, a polygon, or text. I'll just do a point, and you can actually change the colors here. So the border color, I can change that. It's going to give you a style window here that you can change the color, change the fill color, and then click draw. Click on the map, and it's going to draw that point on your map. So you can also add some notes in here. So I could say point number 2. Oops. Click draw. Click on the map. And these are actually adding features to a new result set down here in my results table. So here's the first one that I drew. You can see it was created on today, the latitude, longitude, and then the second one actually has notes associated with that. So you can actually add text too. So let me add some text real quick. So let me just add some text. I can click draw, click on the map, and that text that I just added is going to show up on my map too. Now this also helps if you wanted to print a map, say, and you wanted to add some points or add a little extra information to show whoever you're sharing this map with So over on the right-hand side of our toolbar, if we wanted to print a map, we could come here and print 3 different sizes of maps. Now what this is going to do is it's going to print a PDF, and it's going to give you the background base map that you have enabled, and as well as the data that you have turned on in your map. And now you can actually print the features that you drew too. So here you can see all the bridges that we had active for that area, and then the features that we drew. So now you can save this PDF you can by downloading it, or you can print it off. A couple other features I would just want to touch on real quick is this ODOT Path Web, which I'm actually going to open up Internet Explorer because that Path Web application runs off of a Silverlight plugin that is no longer supported with Google Chrome. So one thing I don't think I mentioned is we recommend using Google Chrome when you're using TIMS, just because most of the features work better in Chrome. All of the features will work in Internet Explorer, but the functionality is a little better in Google Chrome. Except for this one tool, you can only use Internet Explorer for the time being. But I believe the people who maintain the PathWeb application are working on that. So let me come back into Create a Map to show you this tool. I'm going to zoom into a location. Now if I do enable this PathWeb tool, my tool interface isn't going to change here because all it's expecting me to do is click on the map. So you'll see the crosshairs are enabled, and now I can click on a roadway, and it's going to open up an external application called PathWeb. Now what this application allows you to do is we have a van that every 2 years it drives the entire state on a cycle, a 2-year cycle, and collects imagery for the entire state system. So now I can come in here and view the images and see exactly what date they were collected on, the latitude, longitude, location, and then I can excuse me, actually drive through. I can drive fast, or I can slow it down a little bit and actually see the road as it was on that day. So if I see a sign here, I can actually click on that sign or click on that image and zoom in. So it's a pretty cool application that we have made publicly available in TIMS. Another tool in TIMS is this map channel. So similarly, you're going to enable this tool, and then the crosshairs will show up, and you just click on your map. And it's going to open up an external site as well. We did not build this site either, but we thought it was pretty neat and useful. So you have a couple different views here. You have your Google Street View that you can pan around. You have your Google Maps. You can click this guy, drag him around. And you also have your Bing bird's eye view here that you can see some more oblique aerial imagery, some more information. So that's another tool that we have available in TIMS under the Tools drop-down. So this bookmark tool, it's another way to bookmark your locations within the application. This allows you to set bookmarks and then go back to that area that you were looking at. I would probably use the share tool over this just because you can actually share information like the layers that are displayed too, but that is available. You can zoom to bookmarked areas by adding bookmarks. And then you can actually add data to your map. So if you have some shape files, if you have a KMZ, maybe you have some county route section events or latitude, longitude coordinates, you can actually add data to your map by using this add data function. Choose a file, and these do take spreadsheets as input. Upload that file, and then once that file is uploaded, it's going to ask you to map which fields within that file contain the information that's going to be used to map it. So if this uploads, I can then click latitude, longitude, and then click Add Coordinates, and those coordinates are going to show up on my map there. So that's pretty much it for create a map. I know I kind of went fast, so if anybody has questions, feel free to ask at the end of this presentation, or go ahead and send us an email, and we'll be happy to answer those. There are a couple other items I want to touch on real quick before we open up questions.
Steve, just so you know, there are a number of questions in the chat
Oh, there
box.
are. I
Yeah.
haven't been paying attention. Let me
Okay.
jump over
I can
and
read them
take a
off
look.
to you. But if you want to keep going to show your items, you can do that too.
Oh, wow, there are a lot.
I'll read them off to you if you want to keep
Okay.
your screen open.
Sure.
The first one is, how can we tell the date of the data in TIMS? Is the data presented in TIMS always the most recent?
There are certain layers in TIMS that we do update on a nightly cycle. So let me come back to my create a map and show you. We are working on an enhancement beginning in the next few weeks with our developer to actually expose that information to show you when the data was updated. We have cycles for everything, so our bridges, our culverts, our tier 1 assets are actually updated on a nightly basis. Our project information is updated nightly as well. But then we have a lot of other information that doesn't change a whole lot, like some of this environmental information that we update on an annual cycle. If you have specific questions, go ahead and contact us and we can let you know. Or you can look forward to, in the next few months, an application enhancement that will actually show you when the data is refreshed. But that's a very good question.
Next question is, during the filter by graphic, are only the assets completely inside the polygon selected?
Okay, so that is, so we have a few different types of GIS features that you can select. So when you're doing a select by a geographic area, you can select either points, lines, or polygon features. So the way, just due to limitations of the GIS software, if you are selecting points, you are going to extract all the points that either fall within or on the line of that geographic area. Lines and polygons work the same way. So if the line of the polygon falls completely within the boundary, that'll be selected, or if it falls on top of the line or touches the line, it's going to be selected. So we know this is a limitation. It's just we don't really have a better way to do it at this time. But that's another very good question.
Okay, next question. Can TIMS give live traffic accident updates?
We do not currently have that availability. What we have publicly shared is these 3 crash layers that are from 2015 to 2013. We are working on a future enhancement to add GCAT information. So the crash application maintained here at ODOT called GCAT. I'm not sure exactly what that stands for, but it's maintained by the safety group, and we're actually going to integrate that into TIMS, but I don't know if that's going to be publicly available or if you'll have to sign up for a special account to get that. But I think Derek Troyer might be the person to contact with that question. If you need his information, please just shoot us an email and we'll get that to you.
Great. The next question is, does it work on the Safari browser?
Yes, it'll work on any browser, but some of the functionality will be limited. We optimized it. As you know, certain code doesn't work the same way on different browsers. We optimized it to work best on Chrome. If you come to the main page, the home page, down at the bottom there's an About section. And this will show you the browsers that we do support. But the short answer is yes, it works on Safari.
Okay. Next question. Can one filter assets by certain asset attributes, such as load rating or vertical clearance or bridge culvert rating?
If the attribute exists in the table, then yes, we can filter on it. So in our data glossary, if I wanted to search, I think those are all bridge related. So I want to search the bridge inventory here. So if I find that field within the bridge inventory that we have in TIMS, then you can absolutely filter off of that field.
Last question in the chat pod for right now. Can we, oh, I'm sorry, there's two more actually. Can we put multiple pins on the map simultaneously?
Multiple pins. I'm not sure. Is it pins or PIDs? Sorry, let me take a look. What type of pins are you referring to? I don't know when that question was asked, what part of the demo it was.
It looks like he's typing something else in. We can go to the next
Okay.
question and come back to
Okay.
that. How can we enter latitude and longitude values in DD, MM, SS, SS without converting to decimal degrees?
That's a limitation of the software currently, but we actually have that as a line item for our next enhancement. So within the next few weeks, we're going to be getting with the developer and handing them off all of our wish list of what we want to do for the application. And the converting from different latitude, longitude formats is on that list.
Great. And the person who asked the question about the pins says that you can ignore that question now.
Okay.
And since we only have a few minutes left, is there anyone on the phone line who would like to ask a question? You can feel free to unmute your phone by either pressing #6 on the phone keypad or pressing your mute button again to unmute. Or you can still continue to type questions into the chat pod. If not, I think you had a couple more things that you wanted.
Yeah,
There's
just
one question.
I know we're running out of time. Just real briefly, let me show you a couple other things. So data download, you can actually download full data sets here. You just click on the layers that you want to download, and everything that is here in data download is the same information that you see in Create a Map. So you just click on the layer, export data to Excel or one of the other formats, and then that will download. It actually opened up in my other window that I can't seem to get to right now, but that'll download that spreadsheet or what other format. And then standard PDF maps. This is another enhancement that we did recently, is we added multiple sizes for these maps. So if you've used it in the past, we now have 3 different sizes, and we're working to add different layouts too. So currently we only have the ability to print portrait. We're working on landscape as well. So how this works is you select your map type. Most of these deal with the Ellis information, but we do have a functional classification map here as well. You can choose your area of interest, one of these pre-populated areas of interest here, and then select that, the name of that area, generate your map, and then that's going to spin for a second. And once that's done generating, you can click download, and that PDF will pop up, and you'll be able to print that or save that. Whoops. So here we go. Let me pull that up.
While you're doing that, do you have time for a couple more questions?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. What is the status for updating metadata on the data download? And then there's a part 2 to the question to get more info about what the attributes mean in the data download. It says, I know ODOT was talking about releasing this metadata, data about the data. Is this still in the works? I spent a lot of time not knowing exactly what certain fields mean.
Yeah, and we know that that's an issue right now. We are working with the vendor right now to come up with a way to expose our metadata. So our TIMS information here in our local databases has metadata associated with it. We're working with the vendor to come up with a good way that we can easily, because we have 80, 90 data sets, easily systematically expose that metadata. Currently, if you have questions, please email us, and we'll do our best to answer your questions or get you in touch with a subject matter expert that can answer your question. But we currently don't have the metadata available in TIMS, and we apologize for that.
Okay, you have about 5 minutes left. So with that, whatever you'd like to do, Steve, to wrap up.
Okay, so one last item here that I'll touch on is the map viewers. So these are some more focused viewers that are limited content. It's very similar to create a map here, but you can come into one of these. So let me do, for example, hydraulic engineering. So this looks just like create a map, except if I come here to my set visible layers, I think it's my Wi-Fi. Let me refresh. But if I come to my set visible layers, you'll see that only a subset of the data is exposed, and there might be some additional queries specific to that data, to that office, that we set up for this viewer. For example, assets that need inspected within a certain time, or assets that have a general rating of a certain rating. But those queries are set up in specific buttons that you can turn on and off and quickly query that data, as opposed to going through create a map. So doesn't seem like this is loading properly right now, but please feel free to explore this. With that, Victoria, I think I'm out of content.
Okay. Well, I know that there's plenty more, especially if someone takes your class in person, that they can learn. So what we've done is in the file download pod, which is just above the chat pod, there is a flyer for the upcoming in-person TIMS training sessions. And all you have to do is click on that file, and then it'll give you an option to download it if you're interested in registering for an in-person TIMS training. Otherwise, we will definitely be announcing more webinars through the LTAP listserv, and we encourage you to participate in a future webinar. Everyone who registered for today's webinar will also be receiving notification once we publish the recording of this webinar on our website. So we thank everyone for attending today, and Steve especially for doing the webinar. You know, as one presenter said, TIMS is crazy awesome, or excuse me, participant, Mark, said TIMS is crazy awesome, and I agree with him. This was a wonderful
Thanks, Mark.
program.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciate being able to learn more about it. So thank you everyone for your time today. Have a good day.
Thanks, Victoria.